Hello and welcome back to I Have Questions, where we talk about movies that we like and all the problems with them. I'm Sam.
I'm Alex.
Yay! Alright.
This week is my conceit, mostly for SLC Punk. But some other movies I grew up with. Groove, I remember fondly growing up because I can't say I was really a part of the rave scene because, we weren't doing the shit that happens here, but I still was a big fan of the scene at the time for when I was part of it. And then Empire Records, it's really kind of an alt-rock romp, but the rest of the film is kind of, So we're going to start there. We're going to do, in this order, Empire Records, Groove, and SLC Punk. So I guess, let's just kind of bounce into it.
Yay!
So Empire Records, 1995. All these films are basically kind of coming-of-age stories, and they're all barely an hour 30, not even that, like 1 hour 22, 1 hour 25.
But Empire Records stars Liv Tyler and Renee Zellweger and other people who don't matter.
Yeah, who didn't really have much.
Yeah, who didn't have a career, really.
Yeah. The
guy who played Rex.
Yeah.
He was an actor in quite a few things.
Yeah, I recognize a few others in, like, miscellaneous things over the years. Like, where do I know you from? Empire Records is basically Save the Record Store movie. It kind of blows its storytelling chops in the first, 5 minutes because the whole thing is basically a misunderstanding caused by one person.
Yeah.
Lucas.
Yeah.
who I suppose is supposed to be our emotional heart of the film, but even other characters call him out on it. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, the whole movie, I kept being like, is he on drugs? Like, why is he acting like this? What's wrong with him? Like, does he not understand the weight of this situation?
Yeah, yesterday was normal, and now today you're talking like a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
What's with today? What's with today?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So, basically, Lucas has to close. He's trusted to close for, the first time for Empire Records. And the boss, the manager, Joe, says, count the money twice, don't touch his cigars, don't touch his drumsticks, don't touch his beer. The only thing he does correctly is count the money twice.
Yes. Smoking a cigar, playing the drums, and drinking his beer.
Yeah.
He happens to stumble across a franchise agreement in one of the drawers that's sticking out and open that says, they're possibly trying to convert the store into a music town, which I guess is the, this universe's chain, Sam Goody chain, Tower Records chain, Babbage's?
I guess. Oh, we didn't really have that in Florida, so I don't really know.
He had one in Texas.
Yeah, but when he sees it, it's kind of weird because there's no real dialogue in that moment. Because sometimes Lucas says what he's thinking, which worthless moments, honestly. But there's no mental connection to be like, maybe he needs money. Maybe I need to get more money. I'm going to do this thing. It just jumps from he sees the franchise agreement, then he takes all the money and just gets on his bike. And if you've never seen the movie before, he's like, what is he doing? Where is he going with this money? You're supposed to just it's supposed to be put in a deposit box. I've closed before. You're supposed to put it in the deposit box or the little bag that they used to have to go take it to the bank. Why is it going into your pocket? And then he goes to Atlantic City with such a sense of purpose. Basically the Blues Brothers were on a mission from God's sense of purpose.
Yeah, he's pulling slot machine levers, they're paying out, he's calling random numbers and they're profiting. So he's he's got the power of the gods on his side. Rolls once, boom, on craps. It's boom, doubles his money. It's holy shit, it's let it ride.
Yeah, he gets a little bit his pride just gets the better of him. And it's such a 0 to 100 thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just he's closing and then all of a sudden he's yeah, I'm working for a higher power now. I've got a purpose. I'm going to save the record store. And it's just we don't really know if it needs saving.
Yeah, we have no context for this. We don't hear about it from Joe. We don't hear about Joe till later. But
there's no build up or anything to this moment. That's why it was just this, because as soon as I was watching, I was this is going to be a misunderstanding movie, isn't it?
Yeah, we dropped the main conflict gets dropped into the film in the first 3 minutes, and it's you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And the movie does a good job of painting him as a fucking idiot
Yeah.
throughout the most of it, at least.
So he says, "Let it run," and of course, the second time he loses all of the money. So he went. It was $9,000 that he took.
Which is
He
funny.
doubled it, and then he lost all of it.
So yeah, Lucas comes back. Joe's opening the place. Lucas is passed out in front of the store with like a bucket because he wants some change back. It's like, what happened with the clothes? I don't want to talk about it. And it dawns on them apparently that that Lucas has spent the money, that the money is missing, and he's not even informed Joe of this. Joe being the manager. Joe wisens up in the first few minutes, and
he realizes the money's not there immediately.
It's like, where is it? What's going on? Why can't I reach Lucas? Because Lucas basically ghosts for a bit. So it's like, did he skip out of town? What happened?
Yeah, that isn't explained either. He just rides off with his motorcycle, and the other, his coworkers come in. There's just like, Lucas closed last night, and he's wearing the same clothes that he wore yesterday, and he seems pretty down. The money's gone. Like, they know immediately, the money's gone. So actually, Joe finds out when he gets a call from Mitch, because Mitch says, "Hey, where's the deposit?"
Yeah. So Mitch, whatever, is the actual owner of the store. Apparently, it was his beatnik granddad or something.
Changed it into a record store from a
toilet bidet place or something.
Yeah. And he clearly has no idea how the place is run. He just leaves it to Joe.
I mean, that's the point of owning a business like that, when you delegate it to others and you just let the capital come in for you. That's it. I mean, that's basically like renting.
Yeah, but so Mitch was the one who was it wasn't Joe or anything. Mitch was the one who was franchising it. So we find out that Joe was actually saving up money from what he could get from the store to buy the store so that it wouldn't be franchised, and because the $9,000 is gone, that would have been the last deposit that he needed to actually save up to buy the store.
Which also makes no sense. So I guess this is the time to bring it in, and we'll go through the story still, but it's a non-conflict to me, because like on a weekday, 10,000 is pretty typical for retail, like in a slow business day on a regular kind of day. So that's just the store's money. This has nothing to do with Joe. And
but what I'm understand the jump that he made. The $9,000 was the money that they made for the day. Joe would have gotten his paycheck from a portion of that money. Like, Joe wasn't putting the entire $9,000 away. What I'm saying is that's still a part of their pay. The company makes money, and then they can pay their employees. And now it's just like the $9,000 is missing, so nobody's getting paid.
That's super tangential.
Legally, that is tangential, but
legally they have to get paid. Although Lucas should definitely have gone to jail.
Yeah. So we get back in. Of course, everybody knows immediately what Lucas did. Joe is actually he has the most self-control I've ever seen.
He's the most adult
in any manager ever. Because he has hired all high schoolers to run this place, and they are all dealing with teenage angst right now, and it's just, except for Mark. But Mark is dealing with something else. Mark is tweaking.
Yeah, Mark's a fucking tweaker.
Yeah. And it's so weird, because I'm just like, why isn't Lucas dead?
Yeah.
Because Joe is very forgiving. He's like, tell me why I shouldn't call the cops on you. And then Lucas is in his weird, he hasn't really come to terms with the situation kind of mode.
I don't feel like he ever does. Honestly, because he's still talking cryptic as fuck, even to the end of the film.
And then because things work out in the end, he's all like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong, which is like, that's the thing I didn't like. Well, I mean, we'll get to that at the end of, talking about the movie. But yeah, so Joe's really patient with Lucas. And you can tell he kind of hired these kids to give them a chance and give them an outlet, somewhere to go, because all of these kids are so hopped up on teenage angst and so hopped up on the world and revolves around my problems.
Okay, so we've got let's roll through the archetypes then. So we've got
Mark the tweaker,
so our stoner dude. We actually have a pizza guy who, I guess because he works 2 jobs and also works at the record store.
Yeah. Who is providing
he's providing said ganj. We have our slut played by Renee Zellweger. But
it's not really blatant. They drop a couple hints, oh, your skirt's getting shorter, but she's not flirting with everyone who walks in. She just kind of she looks risque a little bit.
She fucks who she wants.
Yeah.
Big whoop.
It's the 90s though, so
yeah,
who didn't?
90s.
The artist.
AJ. It's like
who,
it's just
his plot line is he wants to confess his love to
Corey.
Corey, who is another coworker who is like, the overachiever kid who's trying to get into Harvard, and we find out later she's addicted to speed.
Yeah, gotta get them grades, and it's like, do what you have to do, man. I honestly don't care as long as it's not affecting the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then we have
In my opinion.
Well, it clearly is because when she gets angry, it's really terrifying. And we have the edgy girl who slit her wrist before she came into the film, and then
Deb.
Deb, who and then came in and just shaved her head off.
Deb dealing with real issues.
Are they real issues though?
I mean, trying to kill yourself.
Oh, I mean, yes. No, I mean, like, the thing I'm not saying, like, we never understand, like, she just says, like, oh, I feel invisible. And she's like, okay, you say that, but, like, you work at a tight-knit place where, like, everybody seems to know what's going on in people's lives. It's not like, this isn't like a school setting where everybody just pretends she doesn't exist. Like, she walks in, everyone tries to say hi to her, and she like snuffs everyone.
Yeah.
And ignores them, and then people are like, okay, I guess she hates me.
If we're talking a little about the plot this far in, it's probably because also it's such a rogues gallery, and most of the drama in this is revolving around Lucas's idiocy, and then tiny character pieces regarding everyone with the money kind of as a background piece, more than anything else.
The money thing is not taken as seriously as it should be.
Yeah. It's because it's the central point of the drama, but we just find everyone... Basically, it's Joe playing subterfuge also. So Joe gets a call. It's like, I called Mitch, told him that we missed the deposit, that you forgot it last night. So where's the money?
Yeah.
And asks him, he's like, did you need the money? What happened to it? It's like, I spent it. It's Atlantic City. Why is it in Atlantic City? Well, I imagine it's recirculating right now. And it's like...
Lucas never answers why it's in... And also, Lucas never says why he took the money. He never specifically says, I thought that you needed money, so I was going to gamble and get the money.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that at all, that at least Joe would have been like, oh. And then could be like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense than you just took the money and ran off the first time you ever closed.
Yeah. Joe actually talks to most of the kids like human beings.
Yeah, he's very much the father figure for all of these teenagers.
And we get that actually as a line towards the end of the film where...
At Deb's funeral?
Yeah, where they have a...
Because Deb tried to kill herself, so they're like... But this is after so the moment she realizes that...
everything might not be as
Corey's
bad.
on speed, and she's not just, she's not the perfect kid, and like, oh, my life sucks, and look at Corey, she's this perfect girl, like, I'm so invisible. And she realizes, oh, Corey has a drug problem, and she tried to give away her virginity to a random man, and of course that didn't work out, and now her life is falling apart. And then she realizes, hey, maybe, like, it's not so bad. But then they have another moment, because she goes straight back to being an asshole. Yeah. So they have another moment of realization for her, but it's not realization for her, it's realization for everybody else.
Yeah.
It's so strange. Like, the writing for this movie is all over the place.
Yeah. Again, it's hard for us to really kind of sum up how it is, because like each individual scene barely lends itself to the core plot of this. I guess it's characterization for everybody, but the central drama regarding the money like just gets pushed so far to the back. Like, it only feels relevant in the beginning and like the last 15 minutes. So basically, it's just character dramas so they can all come together, I guess, towards the end. But they seem like they work together already, and they're already willing to work together.
There's no true conflict between the workers, because it's like, they build it because the AJ wants to say, he has this thing like, by 1:37 I'm going to tell Corey that I love her. So he's like building himself up all day. Yeah, but the payoff for that was so weak. Yeah. Anyway, like, all the payoffs for all of these setups were so flimsy.
Yeah.
Like,
also, in the way he like was revealing himself to Corey, it made it seem like make it sound like a marriage proposal. You're not even dating.
Yeah, like, she doesn't see you as anything but a friend at this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, also we missed one of the major plot lines. A guy named Rex
Manning.
Yeah, Rex Manning is coming to, he's doing a meet and greet at the record store, and Corey happens to be in love with him. Or she happens to be in love with the
young version of him.
The young version of him and his singer persona. Like, not him as a person, because obviously she doesn't know him.
Yeah.
and she professes that she's going to give her virginity to him. And it's such a weird way too, because it's not like she's like, oh, I'm gonna no grab his heart or anything. Like, she specifically says, I'm going to give him my virginity, and she hasn't thought this through at all, because it's like, what, how,
And
where, why would he? Yeah,
yeah.
it's just like, if he's the good guy that you think he is, he's not just gonna drop everything and be like, hey, this 18-year-old wants to sleep with me. Like, it seems like his fans are old, so he's
Yeah.
like an old guy.
They make it a point to show off like how kind of like out of generation he is in terms of like
Yeah, the people who
relevance.
come to the signing are like, oh, I used to love you when I was a kid, or my mom loves you, or it's an older woman that comes and she's like, I love you. Yeah, it's an awkward moment.
Yeah. She throws herself at him, and he's having his lunch break, and it's like, I'm gonna bring him his lunch. It's like, okay.
Yeah, this is when first it's like, okay, maybe she is on some drugs, because she's like, Joe, I want to bring him his lunch, and he's like, somebody else is bringing. Joe. Here's the thing. I think a lot of this is going on, and you can tell Joe is like, I have bigger problems right now.
Yeah.
I cannot
God
deal with
bless
all
this
this
man.
stuff that's going on. Like, so, and
Joe
and then she freaks out and slams her hands on the table and gets in the camera's like really close to her face. She's like, I'll bring him his lunch. He's like, okay, sure, like, that's okay. I didn't realize it was such a thing of contention.
Joe doesn't even look like surprised or like he has no astonished face. He's just kind of just like,
because he works with teenagers.
He's like, fucking really? It's like,
yeah,
okay, bring him his lunch. Thanks.
Yeah.
Serving the lunch, it's like, oh, this is nice. He's complimenting it, and it's just like,
and she just starts stripping.
It's like, I can't see that you're still here. It's just like, I really liked you on such and such. So it's like, that must have aired when you were a baby. And then she's like in bra and panties, like, I'm not a baby now. It's like,
yeah. And then like you can tell he's like in his mind, just like, is it worth it? But then like when she's completely naked, he's like, sure. He just unzips his pants, and then I think that's when she realizes, oh,
yeah.
I'm an idiot. Like, just like, I was really just gonna throw myself at him in the break room.
Yeah.
Of a record store. This guy I don't know. And of course she comes to herself immediately and runs up to the roof, because that's one of the hangouts for this spot, and then starts crying, and she's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And this happens to be the moment when AJ comes to confess his love to her, and she is not okay.
Yeah.
And and like he says it, and then she just straight out, she's just like, not right now, I just confessed my love to Rex, like, now's not a good time. And then he is just like, oh well, and then heartbroken. Yeah. Runs away, but he's still in love with her, of course, because that's not going to go away in like 5 minutes. And then he tells Gina, Renee Zellweger's character.
Yeah.
And then and I guess like something happens that, because I mean, honestly, the dialogue is so wasteful. I completely forgot what their conversation about. But yeah, she's like, they're having lunch, and she's like, I'm not like you. I can't just move on to the next guy. And it's like, she says it in such a, like, I can imagine even the actor reading that line is like, ugh, like,
it's fucking ugly.
Like, that's the horrible thing to say to your best friend. He's like, oh, I'm not like you. I can't just, sleep with people and move on. And it's like, and then Gina's like, what the fuck do you mean like that by that? And once again, the movie hasn't really shown Gina to be a slut. She just dresses really risque.
Yeah, and
there is a moment where they talk about it a little, but the dialogue in this movie is so throwaway that it's like, you didn't make that a point. It's not like, she's not flirting with every hot guy that comes up to the register or something. Like, if they did that, because, then it'd be like, oh, it's obvious. Like, she'll just take anybody. But then after she, gets insulted.
And she basically... and
she sleeps with Rex.
Yeah, but she seduces him. Like, she actually makes a point about it. Like, she goes up to the table and basically has some casual conversation with him. Like you would. Like you would at a bar. It's like, I think it's funny they treat her like crap for it, and it's just like, why? Who cares? Honestly, they do. When they pop out of the cash office, it's like Rex like, what? No applause, and then AJ jumps him. It's like,
yeah. But the thing about it is, it's like, Gina does this after Corey has realized that he's scum.
Yeah.
So I don't know why Corey's upset.
Yeah.
That Rex, who just unzipped his pants when an 18-year-old was naked in front of him.
Half naked.
Oh, half naked. Oh, naked from the 90s movies, that's considered.
Bra and panties.
Yeah, bra and panties is naked. And then she's like, oh, Gina, how could you sleep with him? You knew I had a crush on him, and then that crush was ruined within 5 minutes. Like, what? So it seems very strange. And there also is a plot line with the girl who's she cut her wrist.
Dev, yeah, or Deb.
Deb, where she's
They give her
kind of dating one of the other employees.
We get very little from him other than like he's in a band, I guess, because he has that
he has a guitar that he carries with him.
Steve or Chris Cornell look to him.
Yeah.
Like the vest, no undershirt, just chest, big pomp hair.
And it seems like in the beginning, it's they're gonna explore like, okay, they never really say why Deb. She just felt like, oh, I felt invisible, but they never really explore, okay, what was the trigger for that? Because we seem like it was the argument, but she said it wasn't the argument. It was after I got home.
Really, something made me feel shitty every day,
like
and every month, every year.
And the thing about it is, the people in the store around her, like AJ immediately, like when he sees it first, like after the shaved head, and then he looks at her arm and it's just like, what is this? Like, you're not leaving until you say something about it. And then Lucas is like, she's here. She's still alive. She came to work. She's going to be okay for the day. Like, don't freak her out and push her away. Lucas has some moments where he's a little bit smart.
Even poor Joe comes in too, because he finds her in one of the listening booths. It's like, oh, I'm doing the quarterly taxes or whatever. So she's being responsible.
Doing the financial report.
And is this like, can I help you? It's like, are you going to fix me, Joe? It's like,
damn. So Joe's like, doing his fatherly thing and being like, if you want to talk, but that's the thing, he said that to everyone who it seems like they're not doing well. He's just like, you want to talk about it? Is there something you need? And she immediately is just like, oh, you're gonna fix me? Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, and she just goes super defensive, and I'm like, oh my god, this is why people in other countries think that teenagers look old, because it's so sad seeing these people who are adults, who are in their 20s, pretending to be teenagers and saying some stupid, angsty shit that I said when I was like 15.
I think the line that most encapsulates it is when Gina calls out Corey on her speed use, and Corey's like practically in the fetal position on the ground picking up the pills, and someone tells her it's going to be fine, and then she gets up, it's like, oh, it's not going to be fine.
Yeah, that was another cringy.
It's like, oh, that's moment. Yeah, she starts tearing stuff up, and that's when Deb starts dunking her head in water. It's like, you feeling better? Feeling okay?
Yeah.
Deb
has a human moment.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, and there's also Warren.
Yeah. So someone, and the only like that could have been cut from the film, except for one bit. The only thing that Warren lends to it, because he gets caught shoplifting. Lucas chases him, catches him. Cops come and get him. Warren comes back with a gun.
Filled with blanks.
So he ended up getting off light on them. But they end up, it's like, why would he give me a job? It's like, he just needs something to do. So I guess he gets a job that Joe doesn't offer him.
Joe, yeah. Well, he's like, how did you know that Joe wouldn't hire you? And Joe doesn't think, he's just like, why not?
Yeah.
It's like, because Joe's very much like, he's collecting problem children to get them off the street.
So, yeah, that's fair. So the only thing this ends up adding is that because Warren returns, the cops and news crew shows up, and so Mark's like, well, what do we even do with the money? Like, people start throwing down money. It's sold my Vespa. It's like, oh, I have this, so you can probably pock this. I think it's funny that during the collecting money scene in the break room, why the fuck are they giving it to Lucas?
Well, he's the one who lost the money.
Lucas lost the money, but it was still the store's money. It's not even Joe's money, arguably.
Exactly, it's not Joe's money at all. That's what Joe's like freaking out. It's like, it's not my money.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to jail.
Yeah.
But he got off. Everybody got off so light.
Yeah, no, it's
even Warren, because he was back at the end of the day.
I'm surprised. It's like Joe seems like the most responsible one, but anyway, there's a new crew outside, and then Mark's like, I've got a regular idea, and so he goes up front, yells at the news reporter. It's like, we're throwing a get together here tonight, midnight onwards, and somehow I guess they get beer license and stuff, and so they throw a rager to raise money.
Yeah, right after the start.
And literally the last 10 minutes of the film, like it's a race to the finish. Once we get to that point.
Yeah, okay. So, we might as well just get to final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
I'm going to sum it up. Like, okay, this movie seems like they had a half-assed script. They were writing it as they went along. And also, the editor was just like, all right, what do we got? Let's put it together kind of thing. None of the stories had a lot of steps. Even like the main story, the plot line, Lucas lost the money. Because of the way he was acting about losing the money,
yeah.
Like, it seemed like there were no consequences for any actions in the movie. There was no consequences whatsoever. Lucas felt no consequence because even at the end of the movie, everything kind of quote unquote worked out. So Lucas and throughout the movie, he never really felt the pressure of losing the money. There was no moment where he felt the pressure. Joe
goes out of his way.
Joe goes out of his way to, hide the fact that he loses it. And then Joe doesn't really get in trouble with the manager because of that. Rex doesn't get in trouble for having sex with teenagers. The relationship between AJ and Corey is strange and weird, and they're like, oh,
I don't get a sense of mutual...
At first she says, I didn't feel that way about you, but then after she realizes she was a dick, then she's like, I do feel that way about you, I just didn't know it. And I was like, it was the speed. It was probably the speed.
Sure.
But she's going to Harvard and AJ's going to art school, so
yeah, and
they're not going to be together.
You're young adults. I met someone right before I went to college, someone I really gelled with. We got along really well, and it was nice and sweet. She went to Arizona. Yeah, didn't happen. Never happened, actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame, but it's one of those misconnections. That happens in life. Big whoop.
Yeah.
Especially when you're 18, you're going to meet lots of fucking people.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Gina is like, the friendship's magically sewn back together after that, and I don't really know if the thing with Deb gets resolved. She feels a little bit more like people care about her, but there was never a sign that people didn't care about her.
And she got to vent.
She got to vent during her weird
fake
funeral.
Your fake wake.
Warren
gets a job.
And Mark doesn't like his like that. There's no real things that happened to him. Yeah. He's just gonna be high for the rest of the
So Mitchell comes back. It's like, look, I hate this place. You seem to like it. I'll sell it to you. Cheap. The stakes are at odds with...
The stakes are super low, but it shouldn't be because of the way you play this. Like, he lost $9,000 in the 90s.
For up a store.
For an independent record store. Like, that's a lot of money. Like, it was high stakes played as low stakes. Like, Lucas should have gone to jail.
Yep. And Joe was actually in the clear, and then he covered for him by hiding. Like, he could have pled ignorance up until he gave Mitchell the bag of fake money that was just stuffed full of flyers. Yeah. I really remember this movie more for anything, and part of the reason I picked it was honestly the soundtrack more than anything. I was like, this is actually the movie that ended up getting me listening to Sponge. Yeah. But like a lot of the soundtrack like really resonated with me at the time, like because I was really into like alt rock and some punk. Nice small Guar cameo in there.
Yeah,
that was fun. That they got actual.
Like, if anybody actually remembers Guar, I do remember Guar because I watched the Headbangers Ball that came on MTV like in the middle of the night, and they were on Headbangers Ball a lot, and I was like, what the hell? These concerts must be crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my friend's like, if you're going to a show with Guar, you need Guar clothes. And not Guar like brand, just anything you don't mind losing because it's going to be covered in Guar juice.
Yeah.
So a lot of this movie, like in retrospect for me at least,
no substance.
Yeah, it's no substance. Like the best part about this movie is the soundtrack because I don't give a crap about the rogues gallery of characters. Like there's not enough time spent with anyone for me to care. There's too many characters for me to care and get invested in such a short runtime, and the structuring is such that it's just not good. There's not enough good shorthand and visual storytelling for me to care about any of these characters.
That seems to be a thing with like the musical movies that we're watching. It's just like we remember it being good, but it's just like no, we remember the music thing. Yeah. The actual plot's kind of stuff.
I actually like Groove as a movie though.
Yeah. Well, we
give myself away.
So, yeah. All right. So we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we will talk about Groove.
And we're back with Groove.
Yay.
2000. Basically, this movie encapsulates a night of a rave, an illegally hosted rave, as they tended to be when they were in their heyday, as it were, rather than vast commercial enterprises. Not to say that I ever got to experience anything that wasn't a vast commercial enterprise for it. But this is kind of the origin story of raves, or one of the peak moments before the rave scene kind of crashed down, at least in the States, because I know it had been going on longer in like the UK and whatnot. But this is follows one night of a crew run by, I think it was Ernie was his name, We get a lot of character drama for people and their various lives revolving around this one particular party, what it means to everyone for both the scene as well as just them as individuals and what they do. Um, I was playing it up like it's some intense drama. It's really not.
It's not.
But it's fun. Like, it's a fun romp, and if anything, like, for me, the music was a very important part of this movie. But actually, this movie, on a rewatch, I'm still enjoying it. That being said, let's dive into it.
Yeah.
So our first part is really basic, like
They break into the place
to get electricity running. It's like
and sending out all the emails.
Yeah,
and then but that's how we get introduced to the other characters. It was just like their response to this rave happening tonight. So we meet the DJs. Well, two of the DJs.
We get a few throwaway shots for one DJ. I forgot what his name was, but like his girlfriend putting his records in the front seat.
Yeah, and then it melts his vinyl.
It's like, what's wrong with the front seat? I don't know. The sun, the fucking sun. It's vinyl. It melts. It's like, who the fuck buys records anymore anyway?
She's like, I told you shit on the CDs. Like, what?
Which is funny.
Do you not know anything about your boyfriend?
Which is funny because honestly, like, towards the end when I stopped raving, most of the DJs had moved to CDs. Because it's usually something smaller. It's a smaller collection of things you have to hold up. They're not as susceptible to the sun. Yeah. But I found some DJs that were just so shit at it, they would just like literally set their shit, go have a cigarette, and come back. And it's like, you blow. Yeah. I know you're in the outside tent, but come on, put some effort into it.
Yeah, so then we get that. We get some of the people who are going to the party. One is like my favorite plotline is this adorable gay couple who the first time they met was at a rave. Yeah. So, and this particular DJ was playing, and it's sort of the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, it's like 11 months, but I rounded up.
Yeah, and the same DJ's playing, so they're like, oh, this is going to be special for us. And
as long as they don't play that happy house shit, not in my anniversary. Yeah. I like happy hardcore.
Yeah, they're really adorable. And we also get this, she's a New York transplant, because this movie is set in
San Francisco.
Yeah,
it's San Francisco.
Yeah. She sends out an email like, hey, can I get a ride? It basically gives her address and phone number in this email.
In fairness,
and her full description.
This is the early 2000s. It was a simpler time.
Yeah.
I guess.
It was in a little house phones anyway, so it's not like,
Yeah.
that could be changed.
Yeah, I mean, there were cell phones, but not as prolific yet.
Yeah.
We weren't at maximum saturation just yet. We were getting there, but I remember my cell phone at the time was like an 1.5 inches thick.
Nokia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Same. So we have the brothers.
Colin and David.
Yeah. David is, he's a working guy, but he's still like, he still knows how to have fun. But the way it starts out is he's like, I have 3 chapters due like on Monday, and I'm not even close to finishing that. And then Colin's like, I think you're gonna enjoy the party anyway. And I was already like, ooh, Colin's the irresponsible little brother who the older brother just has to corral.
Yeah.
And he says to us, but he's like, oh, it's a surprise for Monica,
Harmony.
It's a surprise for Harmony, who he later proposes to at the party in a very weird way. He puts the ring in her mouth when her eyes are closed.
I think it's because they're going to give each other.
Yeah, because they usually give each other like ecstasy tablets. So, and like completely blindsides everyone, including his brother.
It's like, you've known her for 5 months.
Yeah, and then we find out that they've known each other for 5 months, and I'm like, what? Like, oh, young people. Okay. I'm not that old, but jeez.
Even as college students.
Yeah, even as a college student, 5 months is a pretty short time.
Were you in class for that period, a longer period of that time, and just met each other, and you happened to hit it off really fucking well?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of class, one of them, another plotline we get is a TA and his friend who doesn't know how to be happy.
Yeah, kind of a prick. He's the guy who usually drinks. He's not really into the scene in general. Like, he's like, I'm just gonna get drunk like a normal person and pass out in the gutter.
Yeah. And he seems quite overwhelmed with the rave scene because you got the hippies there and you got people making out with strangers.
It's not his vibe.
And it's just not his vibe.
Which is fair.
But compared to everyone at the party, he seems like a downer. But it's just like, I mean, I kind of would feel the same way if I was my first time going to a rave and everybody was popping E and this place, it was illegal to be here. Yeah. And at that time, I didn't really know that I was super, like I got super anxious in crowds, but that place would have, if that was the first time I went to a rave, I would have probably freaked out and been in a bathroom the whole time.
That's why I have the chill room.
Yeah, the chill room, but to me that still seemed like it had too many people in it. I feel like the chill room's only chill if you're on drugs while you're in the chill room.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
I did find a 20 in the chill room once, though. That was nice.
But yeah, and of course the TA is a chem major, and there are some people, and there are some college students there who's like, oh, you're that TA.
No, I'm not.
Like, he's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yeah, you are.
So he's selling.
But it's not like they're gonna rat him out. These kids are young hippie ravers.
They don't give a shit. They're candy kids, I think was the term. Kids who would they would literally give out candy, and they had like bracelets up to their fucking elbows. I was one for a little bit of time, so.
Oof.
Yeah.
I don't even want to imagine.
I didn't have big floppy pants. My parents would have done that. But I was like, I did have bracelets up to my elbows at one point when I went to raves. So, and largely we'll actually get the old, like, meanwhile back at the ranch, so we'll have a lot of jumps between them. But where...
It's pretty even, too.
Yeah, Groove does a better job of separating the characters and their drama and their individual stories. I think it's because it does a better job of weaving them than Empire Records did. Yeah. Empire Records has I think it's maybe because, like, the central conflict happens so early in the film, and it's, like, pushed to the back burner as quickly as possible in Empire Records. Here, it's not so much a conflict as it is just an ongoing event, and it's basically them just living in the event itself.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about it is, Groove seems more like these are normal human beings, like, going throughout an event in a day. Yeah. Like, it doesn't seem forced and written by someone who's never been a part of that. Like, because you even told me, like, all the DJs are actual, except for the one guy who's the actor.
Yeah, DJ Snaz, and I even still think he might have been...
DJ Snaz is a DJ, but all the DJs are actual DJs. Like, this is a party that is going on the whole night. So I was telling Alex, I was just like, I feel like they just had a party and then took shots from that party and then just used the warehouse for the scenes of the movie. But this is actually a rave that is going on. So, like, there's constantly, music going on in the background. We always, the characters that, they don't always interact with each other, but they don't need to. Yeah. Like, the guy who's the manager of the rave, he's kind of interacting with everyone, but that's because he's the manager. Yeah. But everyone else's stories are separate enough from each other that it's like, okay, well, the plot's not like, how do we fit this in kind of thing? Yeah. Like, everything just kind of progresses naturally in night. So we get... And
we do get those small character moments where, like, the electrician for Ernie's rave group is just, like, hanging out, and the GHB... The Keto actually ends up overdosing later, but he survives. But taking too much GHB. Wait, were you at such and such? It's like, yeah, we smoked a bowl at the beach together. Yeah. It's like, oh man, what's up? And, like, I remember being at parties like that where it's like, were you at Correlation? It's like, yeah, man, I was at Fly By Night. It's like, oh, I love that rave, man.
Mm. And it's not like everybody at that party is tweaking. Like, the engineer's like, I'm not doing drugs that night.
Baked not fried. It's a healthy choice.
Yeah.
Ernie, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ernie isn't doing drugs.
Ernie's not doing drugs because he's managing the whole thing. And he does eventually party at the last set because now he's like, party's almost over. This is the last DJ. I can finally enjoy myself.
You have command of the ship.
Yeah. But for the most part, I think everybody's doing something besides, like, Ernie.
Yeah. Colin proposing to Harmony, and then I guess because they end up, Colin, David, and Harmony all end up dropping ecstasy, and David's like,
it seems like it's his first time.
Oh, it's definitely his first.
Not okay.
Yeah, he actually ends up running into Layla, who's asking for somebody to give them a ride. They end up hitting it off, and she's super understanding, and it's just like, hey, look, everyone knows what you're gonna do. If you're gonna do it, but just relax. Like, take a deep breath. And relax.
She's very because he says a lot of stupid stuff, but she's very understanding. Like, you're super high right now, and you're saying, like, your brain's not filtering anything out. You're just saying whatever is on your mind. Yeah. So, but eventually they hit it off, and they have a very meaningful conversation. Pretty much the most meaningful conversation in the movie. Of like, they're talking throughout the movie, which I like that about this. Like, this builds up their relationship. It's not like they just meet and they suddenly fall in love. Like, they meet, he's a weirdo because he's high off ecstasy in his first time. She's understanding and helps him out, but she walks away. And then, they come back to each other because they just end up running into each other in the chill room. and they start talking again, and he talks about his life, she gets interested, she talks about his life, and then they kind of just end up hanging out for the rest of the party.
Yeah.
So it's a very slow and natural progression. Their romance, I didn't find it disgusting like most romances that just go from
it's like
0 to 100.
By the way, these people love each other because we tell you they love each other.
Yeah, and it's not even that they love each other, because at the end they're like, he's like, "Can I call you?" She's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, I like that. It's really sweet and genuine
and natural, because it's like, not saying that, oh my god, you like, can you go to a party and meet the love of your life? You can, like, that's happened to people, but it doesn't have like you see them from across the party and you're like, that's the person I'm gonna marry. It's usually just like, I like that person, I want to hang out with them. And like, I've done that before. I've gone to a party and like hit it off with somebody and just hung out with them for the rest of the night. Sometimes I talk to them afterwards, sometimes I don't. Like, you know,
sometimes you just meet cool
happens.
People.
Yeah. And then we find out Layla's kind of just drifting through life, going from party to party to party. And she finally decided to, like, okay, I want to go to college now, because a person who she partied with went to college. And then I guess, like, you know, and Layla kept flitting around, but she finally saw her again on the train and was just like, hey, like, how's college going? And the girl's just like, I graduated 2 years ago. And then Layla had that moment of just like, shit, what have I been doing with my life kind of thing. I'm still this party girl, and my friends have graduated college.
My favorite line from her was like, I told myself I was seeing the world, but I didn't see the light of day.
Yeah, because she just partying, and like, she, you know, and she said, like, you know, nobody ever overdosed or got hurt or died or anything, but she was just kind of just living in the moment, not really. She went to places, but she didn't enjoy them. She just enjoyed the party.
Yeah.
Because she talks about how she was traveling, but she only went to these raves and stuff, and just worked to, like, she saw the place and so much that she worked to get money to do things.
Yeah.
And then you have David, who's just working. Like, he's a writer. He studied literature and all this stuff, and he's having this conversation, and she's like, "Oh, what'd you write?" And he's like, and they're like manuals.
Yeah.
So, and textbooks and stuff, and she's just like, well, you know, everybody
it's like
has their start.
It's like Hemingway wrote that series of, like, I think automotive repair manuals. What she says. So their relationship is definitely, like, one of the better established ones here. All of them actually still get decent things. Like, we get a creepy masseuse who ends up making out with Colin in the chill room, and Harmony finds them. And it's just like, I don't know why you're here. You should be having so much fun on the floor.
Yeah, she just kind of like, you know, because Harmony, she gives off this vibe of just like a flighty, happy-go-lucky girl, and when she gets engaged, she's like, oh my god, I'm gonna tell all these people I'm so excited, and everyone's like, oh my god, you're so lucky, like, oh, are we invited to the wedding? Where is it gonna be? She's like, maybe in a forest or something.
Yeah.
So they're very she's very happy-go-lucky, and like, obviously, like, you're super excited to get engaged after 5 months. Like, you're missing some some maturity in there. But, you know, she sees them making out, and she covers herself for a moment, and then she runs away and, like, goes cries in the bathroom. And I was just like, this seems very emotional, but also, like, you guys are on drugs right now, so emotions are very heightened. Like, Colin is, like, he's really, really high. Like,
God,
and he's just like, high is like he's wandering away and nobody's noticing, kind of thing.
They did a really good job of making the people doing ecstasy look really fucking pasty.
Yeah, they looked like they were high.
And it's not even a quality of the stream, because I've seen this in HD, and like, that's exactly how fucking accurate. Like, every person I met who was rolling or doing E at raves was like, always looked a little pasty and like slightly saturated.
Yeah, so Colin's like making out with this masseuse because he's like super. I don't even think he realizes at first that he's making out with this guy, because he's just like, it's just a kiss, and his eyes are closed, and then they just keep kissing. The masseuse is just really creepy, and then he, like, later it gets resolved because he's like, oh, you know, do you want my number? We can hang out later. And he's like, oh, I'm not gay. And the masseuse is like, oh, neither am I. And he just like walks away like, I'm gonna see you at these parties anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And actually that conflict isn't really resolved, because later on, like at the end of the movie, Monica's not. I keep calling her Monica. Harmony.
Do you want to say harmonica?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking harmonica. Harmony's like, Colin's in the shower and Harmony's just crying in the bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well.
Yeah, they end up having like drug laden, not makeup sex.
Yeah, they end up having weird makeup sex at the end in one of the rooms.
Yeah. It's a nice. I think it's a nice contrast to David and Layla's kind of.
Yeah, because they're hitting it off. They're going from like, their lives are kind of sucky, and they're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel and hitting it off. And then Colin, like they started on such a high and it's kind of falling apart,
Yeah.
as life is.
Yeah, because not every party is like this grand event that'll change everything. Because sometimes people do fall out in general, and it's not to say that um, it's supposed to be like a cautionary tale because it really isn't. And I do like that the movie made it a point to have some type of like not dark side, I'd say, but some sort of sad point for some of the characters in there, rather than being it all just because otherwise it would just be nothing but highs. Because almost everybody kind of gets what they want to a degree.
Yeah.
We have Nick Offerman as a cop. That's why I recognize him from all these years before. It's like because he's a cop in this.
Box the Rex.
Yep, and gives an ultimatum to Ernie, like, look, keep your noise down and keep your ravers inside, or all the peace and love isn't going to stop me from busting your ass.
Well, it's really cute because before that, like the cop comes and it's just like, okay, what's going on in this building? Do you guys have a permit? You know, like things that a cop has to ask. So the guy Ernie who's running the party is like, oh, this is just startup company and this is just a party because this might be the last time we can party before we have to get down to business. So he actually shows Ron Swanson, he shows Nick Offerman as a cop around the place as the rave is going on, and he doesn't look like he's buying it, but he looks like he's just kind of letting the guy talk because he doesn't really want to bust him. It's because when he first goes there, it's kind of early in the night and it's like, and also they picked a good place because there's nothing really around the neighborhood for them to disturb. I mean, they picked it for that reason.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really for the building to disturb. So there's no one really calling and saying there's there's a noise problem or anything. The reason the party gets busted is because
someone else's
previous party got busted and all those people showed up. Well, some of those people showed up and were waiting outside the door, and that was causing the police to take notice, and that's when the party got busted. But we also have the kid that ODs.
I forgot his name. Gary? No.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a small little character thing where it's just like, because that is part of the problem with some parties. It's like there's always some idiot.
And then he's taking other things with nitrous.
It's like, what are you new? Yeah. Eat dinner before you take drugs.
Yeah, and then the girl that he came with,
Beth. I actually remember her name.
Beth. She takes care of him, gives him water, like she gives him milk and banana and like keeps him awake and stuff. But that moment is not as much of a characterization of the ravers and more of Ernie and how he is really trying to take care of the people at the party to make sure nothing happens to them. Because there's so many parties that like you'll just go to and there'll just be people dead on the floor and then you find out about it on the news because there's
that's a rarity.
I'm from Miami. That's not a rarity.
You're from an anomalous place.
Yeah, that is not a rarity for people to die in a race. But and also like there's water, there's fruit. Like he keeps everything stocked, and they're not really paying. They're buying the maps for $2.
Yeah.
But nobody's really paying for the party. Ernie's footing the bill for most of this, and constantly bringing in water and milk and food and all that stuff. So like I saw that as a moment of characterization of how he takes care of the party and how he's doing well. And then we also get because one of his helpers is like, why do you do this? Like you could go to jail for this.
Yeah,
like, you foot the bill for us. And he does it for the nod, which is basically someone saying like, hey, thanks, I need this party tonight. Yeah. And just nodding to him, and he's like, that's what I do it for. And that's real though. Some people do parties just for that reason. I know a lot of people who they have parties because they want everybody to just get together and have a good time. I thought it was cute moment. I liked the characters better in this.
So another one of the side stories is DJ Snaz, who's like kind of a up and coming DJ. He's just trying to do his best.
He's the opener.
He's the opener. He kind of flubs it a little bit. We get to see all the other DJs, and we lose a DJ at one point because of the aforementioned vinyl in the front seat. And then he gets to meet his idol because he walks in with a fresh crate. That's how we end up getting the rest of the party, because basically it gets broken up at like 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, John Digweed just walked in with a fresh crate of vinyl. We're going to be talking about this one for weeks in the forums. It's like, open your eyes, man. It's like, it's over. We got busted. Our decks got jacked. It's like, it's not over till it's over. And so they bust out a generator, get everything going, filter people in.
Digweed?
Yeah, John Digweed.
Yeah, Digweed.
Sasha and
Played
Digweed,
himself.
they were kind of a duo at the time.
And he because he brought his own deck because he's a professional.
And one of the one of the more seminal track scenes of spinning is a song called Heaven Sent, SCENT. That track was everywhere back in the party scene after this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But and yeah, it rips. It's actually how the night ends up ending, and then everyone's. I like that they do show like everyone just kind of like leaving the party. It's like it's daybreak. Everyone's just kind of getting things together. Snaz is like talking to him. Can I?
Yeah. So the thing with Snaz is like in the beginning he flubs, but he takes over for the DJ who his vinyls got ruined, and there's this moment where he's like, I guess he's trying to change the song over.
Yeah.
In a not a horrible way, and he's like super like, oh my god, is this gonna be right? Is this gonna be right? But then he ends up doing a good job because I looked at Alex and I was like, don't tell me that he's gonna fuck up this party because I cannot handle this right now.
Yeah,
like things are going so well for everyone.
He nails it. He does a great job, and
then people tell Digby that he did a good job.
Yeah, so I heard your set was really rocking, man.
Yeah, so it was really cute.
I do love that he brings in the old DJ adage, which is like, can I just touch you? It's like, what? It's like, I just want to say I touched a DJ, changed my life. Which is like a super old track name. Digweed ends up passing along the vinyl he used. It's like, no shit. It's a really sweet little moment. And sure enough, Ernie gets his nod because David comes up to him. And it's just like,
thanks for this party, man. I really needed it. It's like, oh, that's cute. It's like full circle for that moment. That was good. And okay, so back to my favorite characters, the adorable gay couple who never made it to the party.
They missed
the whole party because they took a nap before they went. They overslept, and then the boyfriend who didn't own the car was like, oh, I'll drive your car. And the boyfriend who did own the car was like, I know this city, like I can get there faster. And the boyfriend's like, I can do it.
You drive like an old woman.
And yeah, you drive like an old woman. I was like, whoop, catty gaze. But no, it wasn't. They didn't go that route. They were actually super, super sweet to each other.
Yeah.
And the person who's supposed to give them the map for the map point left right before they pulled up. And in the beginning of the movie, there was a throwaway line of like, hey, I drew the map wrong, take a right instead of a left. And they get the map, but they don't know about that because they just picked up the map off the floor and they go to the wrong address.
Yeah. When they finally realize it, the party's been busted.
Yeah, the party's been busted. And then...
fuck it, let's go home.
So, yeah, they said, oh, we're just going to go home. And they're like, no. So they drive out to a pier or something. Yeah. And then they play the Digweed tape from when they met. And they just dance in the beat. And I was like, oh, it's so sweet. I just wish they'd made it to the party, though, because all they had to do was wait a little bit longer, and they would have seen Digweed.
Yeah.
They would have made it for the part of the party they wanted to see.
I feel bad if we got, like, an after part where it's like they're kicking the forms. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I know. But
yeah,
it was still a cute moment for their anniversary. But, like, all in all, it was a pretty wholesome movie. Not what I expected out of a movie about a rave. Yeah, Final Thoughts. I actually enjoyed it. Out of the three, I enjoyed this one the most.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I liked the music, and the stories weren't half-assed. Like they were genuine, real stories about people. Like in Empire Records, I couldn't believe that most of that stuff happened to those kids because it's just like everything about that movie seemed like some old white men who don't remember what it's like to be teenagers wrote it.
Yeah.
But for Groove, it's like. These seem like natural things that would happen. I have like things have happened that I've missed a party that I've been like waiting for because of like other people and other situations and never actually made it to the party and just been like, fuck it, I'm gonna get drunk at my house and make my own party.
Yeah.
And then later people were like, man, that party was lit. So, and then I have had I made a connection at a party. And then I've had things went really badly at a party. Like, friends, well, not to me because I just don't do that kind of crazy stuff. Like, I'm dating my boyfriend. It's our anniversary tonight. But no, I have had friends who broke up their relationships at clubs. And I've been like, ooh, this is not the time. But okay.
Yeah.
So it's just like everything that happened in this movie was believable. I'm like, I'm from Florida. So somebody tweaking out at a party and dying. Like, yep, that could also happen. So I was like, I liked it.
This one, for me, is definitely aged a lot better than Empire did. Like I said,
Empire
has been a better soundtrack film for me than anything else for it. Groove still has a special place because to me it's probably one of the better like fly on the wall kind of things for a rave because you get a good sense of perspective for all the characters, what their personal struggles are, even if they're small like little vignettes in there.
Mm-hmm.
The movie still does a good job of giving attention to the characters who need it and kind of using the characters who may not have as much screen time to provide good character development for the characters who do get more screen time.
Yeah.
So
But also, there's nothing in the movie that changes the plot or pushes the plot. Like, everything that's happening is happening. The party is still going.
Mm-hmm.
The party still gets busted no matter, like, none of the character vignettes change what's going on in the story. Because it's like, this is a movie about a party. And nothing changes that.
Yeah.
so
yeah.
It's like, I like it.
We're going to take a brief break, and we'll come back with my main conceit for this whole venture.
The whole reason why we picked musical movies this month.
I picked these three. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, for this whole month. It's for SLC Punk. Be back soon. And we're back.
Welcome back.
With SLC Punk, 1998. So, I stuck around with this film for a long time, and essentially it's just a coming-of-age story. The soundtrack is rocking. It doesn't pull any punches for what it's trying to go. And it kind of is an indictment of some characters to a degree, at least for me in a rewatch of this. So I think it's been probably at least 8 years since I've rewatched this, if not 10. I do remember this movie holding a special place in my heart because I did used to watch the shit out of this movie too. So watching it again with more critical eyes was a little bit of a trip for me. But I still enjoyed it. That being said, I guess let's run it off. Our main character is
Shaggy.
Matthew Lillard.
I know he's been in other movies, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. He's Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo live action.
He is Steve-O to me because he was in that first, and this movie has
Steve-O's from Jackass.
This movie holds more weight. This is pre-Jackass.
This is pre-Jackass. Actually, 1998. This is pre-Jackass.
I couldn't tell you. That's like I try not to remember Jackass. It was a dark time.
MTV.
It was a dark time.
What have you done?
Yeah. So our story centers around two people: Steve-O, Matthew Lillard, and Heroin Bob. But yeah, it's basically the tale of two Salt Lake City punks. Salt Lake City being the bastion of Mormonism as it is. So, them being...
Not really the greatest place for punks.
Yep. Apparently there's some Nazi punks there. They take every opportunity to kick the shit out of them.
Nazis are everywhere.
Yeah. Actually, our opening scene is them kicking the crap out of two what they perceive as rednecks.
Yeah, they walk past... no, they're not. They're Nazis.
Flannel.
Yeah. The guys didn't... Yeah, they didn't deserve that.
Yeah, that's like...
they were just standing there.
Yeah, they just go up to them and beat the crap out of them. It's like, man, you guys are pricks.
Yeah.
It's like, they're wrong.
It wasn't very endearing for the characters at the beginning of the movie for me, and I was already like, oh, I'm kind of checked out a little bit.
Violent and unjustifiably so.
Yeah.
I understand.
And Alex was like, I never said they were good guys. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, the movie does a good job of kind of indicting the characters to a lesser degree later on. And so basically it's mostly just their life going around town, and over time we get to find out more about them as characters and as people and how they interact with one another and how they interact and how Steve-O kind of perceives the world. Because honestly, mostly Steve-O's story. Yeah,
he's narrating it for the most part. And we found out this is kind of based very loosely on the director's life when he was, that age. And he even admitted, he was just like, I wrote this as I was young, and it's kind of a childish movie. Yeah. And it kind of is. Like, if I had watched this earlier in my life, I maybe would have forgiven the characters a little bit more. But we meet Steve-O, and he's like, I'm this anarchist, and he's like, he turns out to be very smart.
Yeah.
And
studied law in college.
Yeah, studied pre-law. And he has great parents. Yeah. Like, they're divorced, but they're doing what they can do to...
Yuppie father lawyer.
Yeah. His father's a lawyer, and his father's not the super out of touch. Like, his father's trying to be in touch, but he's just like... I mean, it's the same thing now. Like, I don't understand trap music, but you know what? If my cousins want to listen to it, be like, you do you. Like, that's what he is. Like, he doesn't understand all the stuff that's going on just because he's older and he doesn't have that mindset anymore. But he's like, Steve-O's going through his life. He's still pushing Steve-O to make something because he's just like, I understand, like, yes, music is your life right now, but the world's not going to end tomorrow. Like, you need to have a plan. Like, and that's the same thing that my parents did. They were like, okay, I see that you're into this stuff, but still, at least finish college and get a degree that you can use to have a job so you can continue doing the things that you love and also doing something that makes you money.
And the dad is basically absolved at the end of it because it's like no, Dad was right. Basically, it's like the
Yeah.
summation towards the end. If we're giving
Because,
away,
like, yeah, but the thing is, Steve, like I said, Steve was smart. He did pre-law and he did well in
yeah,
school.
his friend
Like,
Heroin Bob, despite being called heroin, does not do any drugs. Doesn't even take an aspirin.
and also did decently in school, apparently.
Yeah. Chemistry major.
Yeah. So these guys, it's not like they have it bad because Harold Bob, his dad is really tweaked out.
Yeah.
Like he's super paranoid conspiracy theorist, like lives in a shack where he has no electricity in there because he's afraid that the CIA is watching him. And Steve goes to these parties. He has, I guess, this friend who the kid's 18, the guy from How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, Jason Segel. Yeah, Jason Segel hasn't gone.
He's 18. He hasn't gone to college yet, but he did say later, like, "Hey, I want to go to college." And
Mike,
yeah.
Mike. It's like, so Mike's not really punk rock. In fact, it's not really much of anything. But here, let me show you. He puts some like rando by him. It's like, do this guy, and they pump up the music, and he just grabs him and like flings him into the wall behind him. It's just like, punk rock. It's punk rock. It's just like, okay,
these guys are unnecessarily violent, but they could go on with their daily lives, but they're very committed to being punk rock.
It's one of those things. It's like youthful rebellion and trying to find a place in the world. In this case, like they're post college, and they're trying to figure.
Yeah, half of them. Most of them are.
Yeah.
Trisha, Heroin's Bob's girlfriend.
She's like
she
30.
owns her own place.
She's like 30, dude. Like she has a business. She's making a contribution to society.
Yeah. Trisha is also she's very
bohemian.
Yeah, very bohemian. Like she seems like she does a lot of drugs, but she has her, she has her life together. She owns a company, and she owns her own
head shop.
Yeah,
it's like she sells bongs, Bob.
But she sells something. Yeah, she's making money.
Yeah, it's like it's not what you sell, man. Yeah. Love Bob's.
Bob's really like super strange.
Yeah.
But really adorable. I liked him, his character the most.
He's really intense. Like we have one point of characterization for him where it's like Bob was a bit of a hardcore dude, but like I said, he didn't like needles. He didn't like medicine at all. He punched a mirror one time, and his hand got so infected from punching it, they had to quarantine him. Yeah. It's like they named a disease after me. It's like, you are a disease.
Yeah, and because there's this girl that Steve-O meets.
Sandy.
Sandy. And he kind of hits it off with her, but they said they have this like agreement. They're not going to be serious, so they just kind of do acid together and have sex in parks and stuff. But Sandy ends up sleeping with another guy at another party somewhere, and Steve-O freaks out because he was just like, oh, I did have feelings for her.
Yeah.
It wasn't just an agreement, which he realizes only when she's like literally screwing somebody else.
Yeah.
At a party that she went to with him.
Yeah. I guess Virginia had herself. It's kind of hard not to, because like it is largely character development, and all the in between is really just so we can see like how Steve-O kind of goes from because we have one early scene where he's 18 and his father and mother are having a conversation with him. He's got like a giant blue mohawk that's obviously a wig.
This is when I was just like, his parents are pretty cool because they can sit there and have a serious conversation with him where he has like a 3-foot mohawk on his head.
He's like,
and they're just like, so college.
Time out. Can I talk? It's like, you two are divorced, so love failed. You moved from New York City, the mecca and hub of the cultural world, to Utah. Nowhere to change nothing, just to perpetuate the cycle of money, greed, fascism. Yeah, I've seen this movie a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, for the first time in my life, I'm 18 and I can say, fuck you.
And then the parents are like, oh, you have the right to say that, but you can tell it's just like, wow, they really kind of dropped the ball on
but he still went he still went pre-law.
Well, that's the thing, because his parent, I feel like he had the parents like my parents, like when my brothers and I would stray a little bit, they'll be like, we'll give them this time, they'll get back on track, and they did. Yeah. Like Steve actually did get back on track, but that's not what happened to everybody in this film.
Yeah, so it's funny too, because like he goes pre-law, his dad rolls up in a Porsche, and it's just like, so why you clearly I have good news for you. It's like, civilization's coming to an end. Better, the people are revolting. You, have been accepted, to Harvard Law. Yeah. It's funny, I don't even remember applying. Well, I signed your name. It's like, really, man? It's like, okay, it's like, Steve, you have the grades. Why even go to pre-law? Why even go to college at all?
He's like, if you were so anarchist and not going to society, why did you go to why did you go to college? Why did you do pre-law? And why did you get really good grades?
It's like, I wanted to
Because you
learn
didn't have to.
how completely fucked up your life's passion was.
He's like, no. Because even his dad was like, it's cute that you think that.
Yeah.
Because his dad is just like, it's cute that you think that, but like to go through all that work just to spite law, it seems odd and like stupid.
We have a lot of other character pieces too. Their drug dealer, Mike. Was it Mike? Mark. I think it was Mark.
Yeah.
Um,
Another throwaway white guy.
Yeah.
It's like and there were a lot of guys named Mark in 80s and 90s movies.
A lot of the characters that honestly revolve around their life are people who have met with like kind of real tragedy and true pathos, I guess, in their life. Because like Mark lost his entire family. He was independently wealthy from the insurance money from his parents' death as a child.
Yeah.
And he's just a drug dealer, not because he needed the money, but because it's just fun.
Yeah.
He apparently killed some people in Miami, and he goes back to Miami to find it, but they never see him again.
Yeah.
But like you can tell that he's on edge constantly because he lost something very dear to him. He lost his family, and so like he's really accusatory towards people because he thinks they're trying to rob him because he's lost out on something already.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he's very unsettled as a person. Like he buys a bunch of stuff to kind of like fill the void, and then like wants to show it off because he wants everybody to be like, oh yeah, that's cool. But even his friends are like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. We just want to buy weed, dude. Like,
yeah. I mean, so, and like you had said, Bob's family, like, well, I guess I don't know.
His dad. We don't really know anything about his mom.
But yeah, his dad thinks the CIA is after him and all that jazz.
And it's crazy. And you get Bob has a lot of human moments. Like Steve-O, watching Steve-O's story, I'm very disconnected from him because he's very childish.
Yeah.
Like he's extremely childish, but it's not childish in a way like, oh, what are you running from? It's childish in a way of just like, he hasn't been reeled in very much. Like he's been let go. His parents let him go pretty wild because they're like, he'll figure it out kind of thing. But there hasn't really been any consequences in his life at this moment because like he gets into these crazy fights that it's just like you could kill people or get killed yourself if you fight the wrong person. It's just like all it takes is for one of these rednecks who are fighting you to pull out a gun because it's Utah and they have guns, And the other guy, he's 18, so the stuff that he got in trouble for because he was a minor when he got in trouble, like he was let go immediately. But Bob is the one who's he's the one who gets stuck in the hospital, and then nobody but his friends visit him until he gets better. And he asks about his dad, and he's like, "Oh, my dad, he drinks." Like he says, "My dad drinks," but we see later it's just like it's more than drinking that gets him that way. And we have human moments with him because he's in love with this girl Trisha, and he doesn't know anything. Like to the point of just like he says like she bought him for like $35.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll do whatever you want. And he basically is like follows her around because he's so in love with her. And even like Steve was like, oh, are you in love with her? And he's like, I don't know. But then he starts describing his feelings. And he's like, oh, maybe I am.
And Steve was just like,
oh, you're such a poser.
The posers fall off. I don't really think you're a poser, Bob. I don't know.
Yeah, because like these are the only, you can tell these are only two people that Bob has in his life. He has Steve and now he's Trisha.
Yeah, and for Steve-O, it may very well just kind of be Bob.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It seems like it's just Bob.
Everyone else is kind of tangential. Like they know a dude named Eddie who's a ladies' man. They know Mark, who's their drug dealer, and Mike, the kid who ends up going off to study botany, and John the mod. Like they know a lot of random people, and
they party with all the time, but they're not friends.
And Devon Sawa's character, the one who ends up I forgot the character's name. He ends up not overdosing acid.
Well, he was dealing acid and his pants got wet and it was in the pocket. I don't know how they really describe that.
100 hits of acid, which is a Bible of acid soaks into his legs.
Yeah, and he like tweaks out so much that he's like sitting in his kitchen with a knife and like after he chased his mom around and
he ends up as a bum.
Yeah, he ends up as a bum because he gets out of jail and he doesn't know what to do because he missed that point of his life where you develop. So he walks in like looking like a crazy person, like I want to work here, and the lady's like, no. Yeah. So you can't just walk in and just get a job like that.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
So Steve ends up seeing this and seeing like everyone else kind of growing up or progressing around them or doing
failing.
Yeah, or failing, and it's hard. And he's like, it talks. He mentions like, I like the feeling, so I pushed it away. And it's kind of like him trying to come to terms with it. And he has another conversation with Bob where it's like Bob's kind of like, he's in love phase or whatever, and it's just like, you know what, man, Salt Lake City's kind of like home, And Steve-O, it just breaks Steve-O, and like it just makes him furious. It's like, say what you're gonna say. Fuck this town. Look about it. It's like, God, Jesus Christ took a shit and it landed right here. It'll be all you want. So
Yeah.
fuck you. And
But Bob is just like, I like it. Like, I like Trisha. Trisha lives here. I can stay here. And also, it's just like,
Bob's
Steve
mature.
doesn't have a problem with, like, he says, like, oh, fuck Salt Lake City, but it's like, you've graduated college. You can leave anytime you want.
Pre-law.
You're
Did
pre-law.
well.
Nothing is stopping you from leaving Salt Lake City right now. Because I think that's another thing where his parents are just like, well, why would you stay? Why would you go do this? Because it's like, because you want to. Deep down, you don't want to admit it, but you want to.
Yeah.
So when Bob is like, it's not that bad. Like, my friends are all here. The woman I love is here. Like, the scene is here. I don't mind staying. And then Steve-O freaks out because he's like, because I think Steve-O's having that slow moment of what am I going to do for the rest of my life thing? Am I going to be trapped here? And when Bob starts maturing and it's just like, I don't mind staying here, he feels completely betrayed.
Steve was basically getting left behind
on
there. And Trish and Bob, being the good friends and people they are, invite him out to one party.
To meet a girl that they know.
Brandy was her name.
Yeah.
And so they end up talking, and Brandy actually just questions, it's like, she's a rich girl. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a rich boy. And they end up hitting it off, and
in a very strange way, because Brandy just calls him out, and she's just like, if you're such like a anarchist and a punk, she's like, why do you go out of your way to look so much like a punk? Yeah. It's just like, you're like, why do you spend so much money on hair dye and like buying all these clothes? Like, doesn't seem very.
It's not rebellion.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very rebellious to me.
That's
you're
fashion.
Still buying. Yeah, it's just, she's like, you're just doing fashion, and he's like he's like taken aback by it, but at the same time he kind of digs it that she's willing to call him out on his shit, but still likes him, and they still have an intellectual conversation.
Unfortunately, during the same party, Bob has been drinking too much, and he ends up getting a headache. And John the Mod's girlfriend gives him some pills for his headache. Bob ends up going a little AWOL and punches a mirror, and so this is when the party ends. And Steve-O takes Bob home, and they have a little heart-to-heart moment talking. It's like, I'm not like my dad, Yeah,
because Bob was pretty torn up because earlier in the day he went to go visit his dad because it was his birthday, but his dad didn't recognize him at all. Yeah. His dad didn't recognize him and then nearly killed him because, shot at him and stuff. And Bob had kind of he put up a good face, but it really hurt him. Like, you could tell it really hurt him that, he went out of his way to buy his dad a gift, go and, go visit him on his birthday, and then to just completely not be recognized and threatened. So he was kind of out of it for pretty much the whole day. And also, like, having that fight with Steve-O was still kind of broken. Like, Bob seems like a very sensitive guy. Yeah. So, in the truck, he says, he's like, I'm not my dad. I want to be a better person. And then he's just like, I want to marry Trish. Aww. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's so cute. And then the first time Bob has ever taken drugs, accidentally, by the way. Yeah. Like, he thought he was just like ibuprofen or whatever, something for his headache. He took like 3 of them.
Percocet.
Yeah, he took 3, and he OD'd.
It was like a handful.
Yeah, and he OD'd. Yeah, and died that night.
And we get it's kind of wrenching, like, even watch it. Like props to Matthew Illard for that scene, because it's like he does a really good job of just like the moment of doubt, like. Or the first,
like, what am I gonna do? You're my only friend.
Realization, doubt. It's like, like the only friend part. It's like, you are my only friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's a rough like 2 minutes of that. Like, but yeah.
But that's real grief though.
Yeah.
Like.
And so it's like, so what do I do? They moved on, and he
shaves his head. He goes to Harvard Law.
They bury Bob.
Yeah, that was a hard movie. I looked at Alex. I was like, why would you make me watch this? I thought this movie was just going to be super childish. Yeah, I ended up crying at the end of the movie. That really fucked me up though. The end of that movie really fucked me up. I was thinking about that for like a whole day afterwards. I was like, oh my god, Bob, no, you didn't deserve this. You were the good one. Steve-O was the reckless one.
Yeah. What kind of peeved me towards the end, I guess, is like, I do appreciate that Steve-O kind of like comes to the realization, like, oh, my old man was right. But it's like, and then I had a realization. It was always Bob. And I feel like that's a cop-out. Because he kind of like pseudo blames Bob like for getting into punk rock.
Well, he doesn't blame him. He just says Bob was the driving force for him. Like Like he thought that he was the one pushing everything, but in reality, Bob was the one who got him into it. Bob was the one who kept him going. So when Bob was starting to mature, he felt like he was being left behind because it's just like, Bob is the one who got me into punk. Bob is the one who, got me into this scene and always was like my cheerleader and backed me up and everything. And now, like, Bob is maturing, and I thought we were just going to be like this. I don't know if he thought this forever.
Yeah.
He, kids never think that far, but it's just but he saw his friend growing up and getting out of the scene and kind of being like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I guess I'll just do, whatever comes next. But it's like, but Bob is not leaving me for Trisha, but he's going into a direction I can't go.
Yeah.
Like, being with someone and wanting to get married to someone. So he's not going in that direction. So when Bob died, it wasn't so much as the slow progression anymore. It was just completely cut off immediately. It's just like, now I 100% don't know what I'm going to do, because the one person who was supposed to be with me every step of the way is not slowly walking away, and I'm able to adjust, but completely cut off from my life immediately. So that's what I saw it as. And that's why it hurt a lot more. It's just like, that's your best friend. Final thoughts. I didn't love the movie, mostly because Steve was just too immature the whole time, and the way he matured so fast was, it's so like, because of death, and it's like, unfortunately, that's sometimes how it happens. But it just, like, I was like, no, I don't want it to be like this. Not like this. I don't want, especially because it was just like, Bob's lifestyle, like the fighting, yes, maybe he got hurt from the fighting, yeah.
They're beating up random people, like punching.
Yeah, Nazis. I would expect it. Like, if there was going to be a death, I thought it would be from that. I didn't think it would be from someone who's never taken drugs to accidentally overdose just because he was having a shitty night and he got drunk and had a headache. So he wasn't even like looking at the person who handed him drugs, and for him, his first time to be drugs, and then he just dies in the middle of the night. I was like, oh, I can't. So it's not a bad movie. Like I said, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't think I would watch it again just because it was such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
I know you love it.
I picked this movie. I would hope so, and I had the conceit of doing this movie last also because honestly, between the three, this one definitely sticks the most in my mind.
Emotional impact, I believe.
Yeah, Groove is, I think, a well-told story. Empire Records is not as well told a story. You're better off just buying the soundtrack or listening to it on iTunes or whatever. Groove, get that soundtrack. It's good, and it's a fun, well told story. It's not going to win any Oscars. I mean, it didn't win any Oscars. Who the hell knew about it? But SLC Punk is one of those films where it's like, I think because it matched my emotional range at the time when I was younger, where it's like, because when you're young, there's always that sense that like there's so much more you can be doing, and there's a lot of unknowns on there. And I felt like it was a good encapsulation of that fire of youth, and then having it kind of like not necessarily snuffed out, but being forced to smack into the wall of reality and realize that you actually have to do something. You have to work towards something.
Yeah. But at the same time, he had so much cushion behind him.
Oh yeah,
like not for the death, but like for his future.
Oh yeah, because he had a rich family. It's already a great support already. People who have wealthy families tend to do better.
He's really smart.
He's super smart. Pre-law, did well in school. So it's like he has a lot of cushions, a lot of buffers for himself as a character.
So had Bob not died, it would have been a slow and very soft fall for him.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't.
He probably would never have gone to be.
He wouldn't have gone to be a lawyer. Like he would have probably been successful because he has money behind him.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't, like, it would have been too slow for him to really learn that his lifestyle wasn't.
Yeah.
Like he still would have learned, like, okay, this lifestyle doesn't really work as a long-term thing, but it would have been slower to the fact that it probably would have been to his detriment because he would have probably missed out on more opportunities trying to hold on to the punk.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And it's like, what do you do when the world doesn't end? And it's like, it brings it up, and he kind of like, I do appreciate that the movie does take the time to kind of take the piss out of its own ideological sense, because it's just like, yeah, that's like, you know what, you can strive for the change you want to see in the world, or you can just be the chaos. But really, they were just pissing away his life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's like, oh, anarchy, I'm against the man. It's just like, Yeah, but you can still do things.
The man doesn't even know where you exist.
It's just like, yeah, exactly. The man doesn't know you exist. And it's like, you can still do things to, you know, mitigate the horrible influence of youth on other people. It's just like, you can do things to make the world better,
Yeah.
but you're not. You're just fighting people and drinking and doing drugs. Like, because even the guy Mike, he's like, I want to be a botanist. I want to save the rainforest. And they're like, oh, that's not punk. It's just like, I was like, isn't that kind of an anarchist thing? Because it's just like, especially with our government in America, it seems like he's doing more anarchy than you guys are.
That's like, I want to save the trees, man. Someone's got to fight for him, and he gets kind of intense and he just punches the table.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, cool, you got a cause now.
So
it's like, unlike your friends.
So I think of the three, I feel like it's a stronger coming of age story. Well, I mean,
it has a stronger story.
No,
it's a much stronger story. Like, it has a better impact than the other two stories.
I agree. So I guess that's all we got for this week. Thank you for joining us on some movies I grew up with. We'll come back next week with some
musicals.
Yes.
Well, Broadway movies. Yeah.
So we've got The Joy That Is The Producers, the original one, Hairspray, and The Wiz.
Oh yeah, are we gonna do the original Hairspray, or are we gonna do the new one with John Travolta?
I'd say original, man. Forgot to do it because we're doing the original producers.
That's true. All right, we'll do the original.
So original producers, Hairspray,
and the original Wiz, because there's because they did a live musical thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is better in some points, worse than others. But the Wiz has Michael Jackson, so.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Till then, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever the hell you may be. Take care.
Goodbye.